CARICOM says it is welcoming the United Nations call for development finance to be linked to funding for climate change adaptation and mitigation. The United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon tells CMC's Kenton Chance that climate finance cannot be treated separately from development finance.
Climate issues are not separate from development issues. Climate finance cannot be treated separately from development finance. They are quite literally two sides of one coin.
As a high-level segment of the annual World Climate Change Conference got underway on Tuesday, a very encouraging statement for developing countries from Secretary General of the United Nations, Ban Ki-moon.
Let us speak with one voice. I call on each and every government to achieve and invest in this new climate agreement.
Belize Minister of Forestry, Fisheries and Sustainable Development, Lisel Alamia, told CMC News that CARICOM nations welcome the Secretary General's statement.
We're really pleased that the Secretary General has called attention to that, because that is critical for developing countries. That when we leave Peru, that there is a commitment to $15 billion for the Green Climate Fund, at minimum the $15 billion. We always have to be very hopeful that the countries will heed the call of the nations that are most affected by climate change and the call by the Secretary General to lend support to the needs of our Small Island developing states.
Financing for mitigating against and adapting to climate change is expected to be a sticking point between rich and poor countries as the negotiations for a deal to be signed in Paris next year continues this week. Poor countries have contributed the least to climate change and are asking that rich countries pay for adaptation and mitigation.
What's happening here with the positions of the US and the EU, and in fact most developed countries, is they're effectively putting a blindfold on developing countries and saying, please trust us.
Non-governmental organizations like Climate Action Network that observe the talks are not given to diplomacy and play a vital role in advancing the cause of developing countries. Kelly Dent of Axfam puts this week's negotiations into clear focus.
Time has come in these talks for us to stop, for negotiators to stop holding climate finance hostage, to stop using it as a bargaining chip. Because without climate finance, the well is poisoned and Paris will actually be over before it's begun. So here in Lima, the real test is going to be whether developed countries can move beyond their hardline positions, their woefully inadequate positions and pledges, and develop a roadmap both towards the $100 billion pre-2020 and also to ensure that climate finance is in a post-2020 agreement or in the decision and the elements text, and that this would set the table for real progress in Paris.
The grading of that test will begin where the climate change talks end on Saturday. Kenton Chance, CMC News, Lima.